Welcome to the Strong, Single and Human podcast, a real look at single parenting, the ups and downs, and how to navigate life with kids on your own while keeping sane. Covering subjects such as domestic violence through to fussy eaters and solo dating. I'm your host, Claire Martin. Welcome. This week's guest is an expert in leading community-driven educational transformation in high-need schools and districts. With more than 25 years' experience in education and 15 years directly leading changes in schools, districts, and statewide reforms in California, she is a single parent and has been one since her son was 1, and he's now 18. Welcome, Megan. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for spending the time with us on the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
No, it's great. I can't wait to dive into your journey of being a single parent. So look, tell us a bit about yourself and how you got here to the single parentdom and what you're doing at the moment.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me. So I am a career educator who I live in the United States in California, and I've been in education for 27 years and I've done everything from being, I gasped at that number too. Everything from being a teacher to a school leader to a district leader. And now I mostly provide guidance and support to districts and counties of schools out here in California. I have a website that talks all about that, which I'm sure we'll get to. I became a single parent when my son was just shy of 1 year old, and he's now 12. So it's been basically his whole life. Not a very fancy story for how we got there. My son's father and I just didn't have a great relationship, and we're actually great co-parents, but not great in the same house parents. I always say that when you have kids, it makes everything more concentrated. So the good parts are stronger and deeper, and the challenging parts are stronger and deeper. And depending on what that balance is, you may or may not find yourself as a single parent as well.
And look, and these things happen.
Towards the single parent land. So.
Yeah, exactly. And look, these things happen, and sometimes it is the case where you're better actually living in separate houses and you're awesome parents living in separate houses than you would have been living in the same house and having to deal with the idiosyncrasies of each other or whatever.
Yeah, totally. I have tons of respect for my son's dad, but yeah, in the same house, not so great. Outside,
it just drove you crazy.
Fantastic. Yeah.
but that is the case sometimes, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. And actually, in a way, it's probably better for your son, because then you're not in the same house wanting to murder each other, and you're great.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, we're good.
No, exactly. So, wow. So you've gone from everything then, because being 1, that must have been pretty tough with your son being 1. Because my son was 2 when I separated from his dad. Mm-hmm. And, oh my God, the sleepless nights and, the teething and all of the other stuff that goes with it. Did you have help?
No, I didn't have help. My family doesn't live near me. So I was on my own. I shared custody with my son's father. When he was little, I had him most nights though. So speaking of all those sleepless nights and everything, for this first few years, it was rough going for sure. Right. He said teething and I'm like, teething, boy. And it's like, everything's a blur. So teething happened, I guess. I don't remember anymore. It was a lot. It was really hard, I think. When they're little, you just have to be so on it for everything. And so the biggest thing I remember was just the fear of getting sick. I got sick from time to time, but boy, when you're sick as a single parent, there's almost nothing worse because there's nowhere to go. You're it.
There isn't. And there's nobody going to take away the responsibility. So, you've still got to feed your child and clean your child and make sure they're okay. And,
those were the hardest years. Where I just remember one time I was so sick and all I could do was put Netflix on. Thank God for Netflix.
I know.
I was coming in and out of my sickness stupor and, these terrible kids shows were on, but he was entertained and safe and I was well enough to be able to handle that. And when I got really, really sick, I could always send him to his dad's house. But I tried to always kind of honor my time as much as possible. And so that was tough. I've gotten to the stage now where my son can like be at home by himself, which is a whole new world. Yeah. It's a revolution.
Yeah, I haven't. I'm in the middle. So he wants to be very independent. I mean, he's 6, so he wants to be very independent. But there's no way I'm leaving him in the house on his own. Not at 6. So I can't wait for when he gets a little bit older, because then I can go shopping. I can go down to the supermarket.
That was exactly the first thing I did when I left my son alone, was just grocery shopping. And what a gift to not have to drag him.
I mean, at the end of the day, we've got click and collect, so you can order online and you can go and collect it from the supermarket. So you're not like in the supermarket with a child, so like it can be like a nightmare.
Right.
And I know I've got a couple of friends who have autistic or ADHD children, and that's how they've coped with getting groceries. Being a single parent and getting groceries is they order online and then they click and collect. So they don't get it delivered because it costs money, but they go and they basically say, hey, I'm here, and then it gets delivered to their car, they load it up and off they go. So it's awesome.
Yeah, that's a gift. I didn't have that, and my son went through a pretty bad tantrum phase, and I remember I kid you not, a half a block from the grocery store, and I almost did the order and delivery thing, and I was like, I can't if I'm a half a block away. But like I got to that point of like just desperation around him, because I just never knew when he would go. And certainly left some things in the grocery store while I took him out and dealt with it. But I am glad that states are beyond us.
But now you're moving into like a whole different world, because now he's 12.
Yes.
That's more, I want to, finding their own way in the world and things like that. So that's a whole different stage. And I do sit there and I go, oh my God, when does it get easier? Yeah. And like, I'm 50, my brother's 46, and my mum says, it doesn't get any easier. It just gets different, because then we're worried about, because you're then being the age that we are, you're then out in the world yourselves, but you just worry about your kids because you worry that they're safe, that they're doing, they're happy. So mum says, it just says, it's just so much fun. It's just all those different stages. So I'm like, great. Okay. Thanks for that. Why didn't you tell me before I had a child? That would be so awesome. My life could be so different. I could be flying business class if COVID wasn't around, and right. Having jollies everywhere. But I wouldn't be without him. He's my world. So and hence I'm on here as well, because I'm trying to help other people who's doing it on their own and stuff. So wow, so 11 years really co-parenting with your son's dad. What have you found to be, apart from the temper tantrums and trying to go to the stores, what have you found to be the biggest challenges you've had, biggest hang-ups really? Because you're a career-driven woman, just like I am, and but life changes when you become a single parent. Well, when you become a parent, but even more so when you become a single parent. Yeah. What challenges have you had?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's like the personal and professional ones. The personal, or I'll leave personal one, the professional, have really been around how do I push forward in a career? I am really career minded. I have made choices because I'm a single parent to not be able to excel in my profession as much as I would like. For example, in education, being a school principal, I don't know what the word is in Australia or England.
Yeah, we have. Yeah,
same thing.
Yeah,
okay,
we do.
So headmaster, maybe.
The headmaster and headmistresses in the UK, or unless they're called head persons now, I don't know.
Head person.
It's got to be politically. I haven't got a clue. I've been out of the UK for like 14 years now, but in Australia they're called principals.
Okay. Yeah. So that's for that role.
Yeah.
That role is a real gatekeeper to advanced executive leadership in school districts. And I just could never be available at my school at that level. So I've done everything I could in and around that. I was an assistant headmistress before I became, before I had my son.
Oh, is that down to you saying, well, I believe the role is X, Y, and Z, and I can't be available to do all of that because of my son? Or was that down to the schools actually saying, well, no, you can't, like, you won't be able to do the role because you won't be available to do X, Y, and Z?
Yeah, I mean, the schools haven't said no. It definitely was my decision. I mean, part of it was just knowing how demanding the role is and having a small child at home and being so responsible. I didn't feel like I could do my son justice or the role justice. I feel like what I would do is just kind of fail on all fronts. I could have done it, and there are certainly people that do, and I have no judgment for it. But for me, I just felt like I just didn't have the bandwidth. And it's, those kinds of roles there's been other ones that have passed me by. I mean, I work a lot, I work hard. But I have absolutely skipped out on things that maybe if I didn't have a child, I would have chosen to do. Because especially now when he's at home, this is the prime time when I need to be available to him. And, as we were saying, it just never ends. So they get bigger, but their needs are different. So I had thought maybe when my son was younger, that I could take on some more different responsibilities now. But actually, as a adolescent, he really needs my time and attention. He's been really needing my support around homework and other things in a way that I didn't expect. So, and no complaints, but it is what it is. So, my career will have to wait another few years until he is launched, and then I can refocus there. And I'm doing what I can now, and I do a lot. And but it's always, and I'm sure it's true for every parent, it's always that balance or that question in your head of career or child. And some people do both really well. Some people do one really well. And when you're a single parent, you have to figure out how to do both and just kind of manage it. No choices. Launched, and then I can refocus there. And I'm doing what I can now, and I do a lot. And but it's always, and I'm sure it's true for every parent, it's always that balance or that question in your head of career or child. And some people do both really well. Some people do one really well. And when you're a single parent, you have to figure out how to do both and just kind of manage it. No choices.
Because
Yeah, absolutely.
You've got to bring the money in, haven't you? Yeah. At the end of the day, the father, although they contribute, it's not like being together as a couple in a household with both your money going into a joint bank account and you dealing with that, there are a lot of things as a single parent that you deal with. And although we get child support and stuff like that, and in this country it really needs to be sorted out, but and I don't know what it's like in America, but like in this country, there are so many loopholes and so many ways that people can actually not pay child support. And I think it's terrible. Here we go. This is me on my political horse, but I think it's terrible in the fact that it's their child. It's not that they're giving money to the mother to then frivolously I don't spend any of my kids' child support on anything for me. It's all for him. So, and I think if we actually sat down within the child support system and looked at what single mothers or fathers, depending who, and I have my son 100% of the time, if we wrote down everything that we actually paid out for, then, you'd look at what you're getting in child support and what you're actually spending and go, well, how does that work?
Yeah. And I don't get child support.
Oh,
so
wow.
I'm on I'm actually the one that pays. So, so it's rough. I actually had a friend of mine who's married and doesn't work once say to me, she's a stay-at-home mom, which is a really important and big deal job.
Yeah. And hard. I mean,
so hard. But she was like,
I'm not sure I could do that job. I'm not sure I could stay.
No.
I stayed at home for 7 months and it drove me insane. I needed to have a couple of days where I was not a mum, which,
I really like going and thinking and kind of using the different part, single, of course, stay-at-home moms think, using a different part of my brain at work that I did at home. But she said to me once, she was like, oh, it must be so nice because you share custody. And then when you give your child to his dad, then you're just free. And I guess she was imagining I was like just chilling, eating bonbons or whatever. And I was like, yeah, when my kid's with his dad, I'm just working all the hours that I didn't work when he was with me. So I work full time when he was with me, but then I would do extra time because I have demanding jobs just to make ends meet. Like, you know, when you're responsible for a whole household, this idea of rest isn't there the same as for someone if you're sharing an income. There isn't like a safety net if I lose my job. So I'm always kind of hustling and trying to keep things going. And that's, I think, a hard thing for folks to understand.
Yeah, I mean, there's things like my kitchen needs painting, but I can't do it when my son's here because it would just be insane. So when I don't have him, or, you know, then I try and get jobs around the house done that mean that, you know, like drilling or changing plugs or doing what, you know, things that, you know, if you were in a couple, one of you would look after the kids while the other one, you know, did those jobs as such. Yeah, it's just, yeah. And so I know what you mean.
Exactly. So whenever our downtime is like, right, exactly, doing the things that we don't dare do, like grocery shopping or whatever. I think it's not the life of leisure that I think people imagine.
It's not like you go on holiday every time, you know, your ex-partner takes your child. It's definitely not that. No. Nope. Wow. Okay, so career-wise, you've had to sort of, and I agree with you. I took a step, like I was contracting, I was earning a lot of money. I was having a whale of a time. And when I became a single parent, I just couldn't contract, because contracting in Australia, and I'm in IT, so IT contracting in Australia can be, you're on call like 24/7. And if you're involved in a project that's running 7 days a week or whatever, there's long hours. Sometimes there's not long hours, and sometimes there's really long hours. And you just can't do that and be able to maintain a contract. So it's then about doing more of a permanent position, and doing more of a 9-to-5 job, which is great. And I love what I do, and I love the work, and I love doing these podcasts as well. But sometimes you don't get the buzz of the big hectic projects that are crazy, and that you're working like, you know, 15 hours a day, and, you know, and everyone's pulling together as a team, and it's all, you got that team spirit as such. But you just have to do that, don't you? Make those sacrifices, put everything on hold.
Yes, it's a different. You just shift. That's right. Everything is paused a little bit, or at least adjusted. So I just think, you know, doing a lot of what I've dreamed to do, and the rest can come.
How did you organize your time though? Because you deal with educational transformations basically. In schools and around California, basically. So how do you manage or how did you manage your time regarding doing a day job? I don't know if you studied and did whether you were studying and doing anything in the meantime as well, because kids when they're younger and stuff. I mean, well, you know, and then when they start school, that's a whole different epiphany there. But they sort of demand your attention, and you can't really, like, as we've just witnessed, because my son's just come in the room and said he was hungry. You know, it's, how do you manage your time? How do you manage your time now? Because he's demanding now.
Yeah, he, you know, so I've become really accustomed to waking up very early in the morning. So I wake up at 5 a.m. my time at minimum, often earlier than that. And I'll work for a few hours before he gets up. And that gives me a leg up on the day, and allows me then to leave at a decent time at the end of the day. So I'll work, do whatever I can do remotely. And now everything's remotely, but before then remotely. And then go into the office, drop him off, go in the office, and then pick him up at a decent time. He always had some kind of aftercare program to watch him. So that's mostly how I've managed it. I had most of my advanced degrees I've got before he was born, but I have certainly been studying and gaining additional certifications since he's been with me. And, you know, again, that's what that free time from when my son goes to his dad, it's me doing homework. I wrote a book during that time. And
wow.
So it's all early morning or when my son's with his dad time. That's what I'm doing. I'm working almost. So it's just like kind of a nonstop haze of work, I feel like.
It is, isn't it? It really, really is. So personally though, what do you
Mhm.
feel have been your biggest challenges like within your personal life as such? Has it just been like
Yeah.
getting time to spend with him, or do you feel that's okay? And
He and I have a really rich relationship. You were saying a 12-year-old, and I was really fearing a 12-year-old. But, this morning I was dropping him off at his dad's house, and I think he said, "I love you" to me 10 times in the 10-minute car ride. And then when he was getting out of the car, he's like, "Mom, you're just beautiful." So like we have this very
that's
sweet,
awesome.
I have a very sweet son, who relatively speaking is easy. And I think we are solid. Things come up, but like he's pretty good. And so we enjoy each other's company, and he's definitely wanting more of his own time. I think for me, it's been balancing personal life. Like dating has been very difficult because, when you date somebody, especially if they're also a parent, which would be my preference, because I think parents understand the challenges that parents face. Not that if you don't have children, you can't do that. It's just, I think, really hard to understand like how much kids like they're the priority. So like that's that. And parents get that.
And I don't know if it's different. Like I'm a female, you're a female, so I don't know if it's different for men, but I find that there's like, and I haven't dated mainly because I just don't have the time, but like
Mhm.
I find that if my son was wanting to do, if my son was demanding something first, like he comes first, right? And I think somebody else with
Mhm.
children actually would get that. There would have to be an amazing person who didn't have
Mhm.
children to actually understand that that is the situation. Well, all mature. I don't know. Who knows? I don't know. Haven't met a
Exactly.
person that like understands my situation, and my situation can be a bit challenging at times. But yeah. So yeah, I agree with you. How did you like?
Yeah.
And I hope you don't mind me asking, but when did you start dating then? After you split from? Because I mean, your son was one when you separated, or just barely one. So like.
Yeah. I mean, I've dated throughout. I've had some longer term relationships, but it's always been challenging. And I think, I've learned a lot about myself along the way. Um, yeah. So my preference is also to date people or be with people who have kids because of what you're describing. I'm sure that there are amazing people. I have tried it and I haven't encountered those specific people who could get that, if my kid calls or my kid needs something, like that's that, or that I only date around my schedule with my child, and I'm not willing to adjust that unless it's a very rare occasion. So that means you're dating other parents, and other parents have their own constraints, and they generally have the same values, not always, but generally, which means that the sliver of time that you can have with someone alone to develop that relationship is very, very narrow. And that can be really challenging. I mean, I'm with someone now, and the relationship is new, and they were over yesterday spending some time with my son, but it wasn't a time for us to hang out. It was time for them to hang out. And it's often the same case when I'm at their house. So it's just a little bit of how it is. So it's slower, which may not be the worst thing in the world. But and then you have their kids and then their exes, and it just all of a sudden your world and who you're dating becomes exponentially larger because you're definitely dating their ex, whether or not you want to be.
No, but yeah.
That's truth. They're there, they're in it. My son's dad
Oh,
remarried.
wow.
She certainly married me too.
Yeah.
I know she
Yeah.
didn't expect it, but there I am. We see each other every week, at least once, often more. So, there's a joy in that because they have kids. And so I was hanging out with my son's half sisters today, and they're a delight, and they're so much fun to be around. But it's our worlds are expanded and different when you're.
Oh yeah, look, like I said to you earlier, I'm packing and I'm now going to head off to spend Christmas with my son's sisters because he's got two older sisters, and their mum. And their mum has always, and so I'm going to stay in their house because then my son can have Christmas, open his presents with his sisters and all of this stuff. And like, yeah, me and their mum, like she's always laughed and said, you know, when I first met you, I always thought if things didn't work out with you and you know her ex-husband, my ex-partner, if things didn't work out, we'd end up being good friends anyway, and that's how we are, which like thank God, because it makes it so much easier with the kids. But you know, it's not always that situation. So I'm blessed that we've basically just both of us have the view the kids come first. So you know, like thank God,
Right.
at least the ex-wife is like of the same view as me, you know, and we love our kids and she adores my son and I adore her girls, and like so it's just perfect that way. The relationship with the ex-partner is maybe the worst for both of us, but anyway, but that's look, that's okay, and they're the challenges you know you have to deal with. But yeah, I agree with you. It's so I have sisters and an ex-wife to deal with from my ex-partner, but then if I then go and have a relationship with somebody, then I've got, like you say, you've then got another whole blended family to deal with as well, and that just is that just makes your world a little bit bigger and a little bit more complex, doesn't it?
Well, here's a funny story for you. And I totally agree with you that I think kids coming first is so important. And I've been lucky that my son's father's family has taken me in. So we occasionally do holidays together. His parents have come to like events of mine alone without dad, just because they want to support me. So it's been great. But I remarried briefly after my son's dad and I split up, and that relationship didn't work. In some part due to differences around parenting, because again, when you're dating other parents and those parenting decisions come in, and we just didn't see eye to eye on some things. And, you know, it wasn't the child's fault, but it showed the wedge in our relationship that wasn't working. And anyway, so the relationship ended fine. We were still friendly, all okay. I moved into like a condominium here where I live, bought a condominium. A month later, his first ex-wife bought the condominium downstairs. So I now have, and my stepson lives there. So my stepson would live with me for a while. Anyway, and I knew his ex-wife because she's the mother, because of the extended family, because she's the mother of the son, was in and out of my house when we were married. So now we live together with her son, my stepson, in this condominium, and I see her all the time. So the world is small.
It is.
Definitely be nice to those exes, friends, because you never know when they're going to be living in your literal complex. You have no idea. Yeah. So it's very funny and very strange. Small world.
I know it is. It is, and it like and it is exactly like you say. I mean, like I haven't had. I've been very lucky. I say very lucky. Like I haven't had to deal with anyone else parenting my son. So it is very much me and him. I do make mistakes. I'm not perfect, okay? Mm-hmm. So, but I haven't had anyone sit there and say, no, he can't do that, or you got to change that or whatever.
Yeah.
It's so that must be a challenge. How do you deal with that? Because like this is your baby. Like my view is this is my son. Okay, I will bring him up how I want to. I'm open to like feedback and like I'm not perfect, but how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things you really need to probe deeply. So I'd say, and again, I love my second ex-husband, and we just didn't see eye to eye on some core things that I think we just kind of assumed we did, and we just didn't. And so they didn't like become clear until we were confronting them. So I think it's a lot of conversations, getting really clear on what the rules were. I basically did almost all the disciplines. That was kind of how we agreed upon it. Like they can be friends, but I'm the one that does the discipline. And that seems to be what's happening at my son's dad's house as well. Stepmom does do a little bit more discipline over there. And then I have to deal with that. And sometimes that's really hard, right? So sometimes I really don't like how things are going or how something was said or, misunderstanding. And that's just kind of the nature of it. I tend to focus on she's another person who loves him, who cares for him, and who's trying really hard. And so I try and give her a lot of grace, because I also know how difficult it is to be a step parent. And it's challenging. There are times where I'm like, oh gosh, that's not what I wanted, or that's not how I would have said that, or that's not, and when things are at ever hard, then it goes back to the father and I. So he and I then circle back up again, and we return as the main unit. And we've always been the main unit, and that's helped us because it creates some clarity. So if something really is, and we haven't had many, but the few times where there have been like issues for us all to unpack, whether it was with my ex or with his wife, it would just come back to the two of us, and we would sort it out and then tell our respective partners what's up. And that seems to be working for us.
Well, that seems a very good way of dealing with it, because at the end of the day, you're your son's parent. I know you've got external influences on that as well, with partners and, wives and other kids and things like that. But at the end of the day, if you keep that unified unit as such, then that sort of helps, I suppose.
Yeah,
I'm no expert on this.
Yeah, we meet every week, at least during one of the handoffs. We usually spend at least a half an hour or more together. And we, if something's coming up with my son, we both drop everything and just hash it out. So it's been working. It's definitely not without its challenges, but like I said, we're pretty great co-parents, so it works out okay. And we all put my son first. Once we acknowledge that he wins, and that's it. So, well, and his needs are first.
Exactly. And this is the thing, the kids don't get asked to be born. Yep. We actually want the children. That's why some of us, why we want to have a baby. We want to have a baby. So we're the ones who are wanting this, not them. And then when they come along and we go, oh, hang on a minute, this has just got a bit too hard. Yeah, that's not their fault. Yeah.
Not very fair.
Yeah, no, exactly right. Yeah. And believe you me, there are some times where I go, what, can I just put you back in? Because, it's just too hard.
Oh, yeah. It's being a parent is really hard.
And it's quite funny because when I was pregnant, there were people, I would go, oh, I can't wait for him to come out and meet him and all of this stuff. And people were like, oh, you can't put him back when he comes out. And, it's like, oh, you might just want to enjoy your time now. So, right. All these things that you think are going to be like this wonderful experience with having children. And look, and some of them are, don't get me wrong, some of them are, but there are some that make it really hard.
So there's no instruction manual, right? You have to kind of figure it out as you go, and it can be really, you always get surprised by what the thing is. Again, I thought these middle school years would be the toughie, and actually it was, him around 4 was his hardest so far. So you never know what those moments are going to be. And
no, that's fair. Have you, I'm a nightmare because I'm always constantly questioning and concerned about what I'm doing. I mean, at the moment, you and I are sitting in an interview. My son is on his iPad, or sometimes he watches TV if he's home and I'm doing an interview, and we're in the school holidays at the moment. Mm-hmm. So he's home. I don't have any family that he can go to. I have really awesome neighbors. I have awesome friends. Mm-hmm. So, that's great. But it's Christmas, so half of them are away traveling, or half of them are at work. So we just get on with it. So I get really, I get like mummy guilt about he's on his iPad, like he's been on his iPad now for since 9:30. Mm-hmm. So we're talking about an hour and a half, right? And I get guilty about that. I get guilty that I'm working, and so I'm working in the daytime. He might be off school. And, he's like, Mum, I want you to play with me and stuff. So I sort of do, half an hour of playing with him. Then I go back to do some work. And then have you experienced mummy guilt? I'm sure you have. Like, have you dealt with
this morning?
Exactly. Like, and I'm sure couples go through it as well. It's not just us, but I think when you're a single parent, I don't know. I find that there's more pressure on us. I don't know. Do you?
Well, again, it goes back to your point around like there's not another person when you need to do anything. I mean, I started using screens as the babysitter.
Yeah.
as soon as he started waking up at the same time that I was also getting ready for work, which was probably around 2, because I had to take a shower, I had to get dressed. Everything else I could possibly do when he was near me. But when I was in the shower, for sure, he could not be with me in the shower, and I had to leave him alone. I took quick showers, and that's not, so it was like you're always just kind of a little bit worried and balancing. I've had to bring my kid to like present at meetings late at night. One meeting I had to present to him. Yeah, he was asleep on my shoulder, and I'm standing in front of him. He was probably about 2 or 3, and he's like literally drooling down my shoulder, and I'm standing there doing the presentation because the meeting went late, and that was when my opportunity was. And by then he'd fallen asleep, and all those moments happen, and I feel a lot of guilt for some of them. Others of them, like modeling what a really strong mom looks like, and somebody who is working and who's like getting it together and taking care of business. So the screens I feel the most guilt about. They're also just ubiquitous, so it's really hard to get rid of them. But me working a lot, like for the most part, he reflects back on that now, how much he sees how hard I work and what I'm contributing to the world. And so certainly there are times when it's frustrating for him because I've had to travel for work as well. And that's hard, but for the most part, he gets it. And, when he doesn't, then we have to talk about it. He was mad at one point because I didn't pick him up I couldn't pick him up after school. So where I live, it's fairly affluent, and there are a lot of moms, primarily moms, some dads, my son's dad included, who could pick up the kids right after school and take them across the street to the park and do all those kinds of things. And there was a period where he was mad at me that wasn't me. And I was like, yeah, I'm so sorry. Like, you're right. It's not me. I can't afford to do that. I can't afford to be there at 3 o'clock or 2:30 in the afternoon. That's not my reality. So,
yeah, look, I must be one of the only people who's thankful for COVID, because COVID's enabled me to work from home for the last 2 years. Oh, yeah. And therefore I can drop my son at school at 9 o'clock because I live 2 minutes away from school. So it means that, and I do like you do, I get up early, I do some work, I make sure everything's sorted, then I get him ready for school, breakfast, blah blah blah, and then basically we go out the door, quarter to 9, we go out the door, we do a 2-3 minute walk to school, I drop him off, he goes into class, and then I'm back sitting at my desk in my office for 9 o'clock. So I'm thankful that it's a 15 minutes and I'm back at my desk. So whereas I would be dropping him in a normal world, I would be dropping him at before school care at like 7:30, and then I'd be driving to work, which would be 45 to 50 minutes, maybe an hour, depending on traffic. Doing my work day and then leaving off, working through lunch because I needed to leave off early to be able to come back to pick him up. So I would then have an hour 20, hour and a half, because the journey coming home is so much worse. And he would be in before and after school care from like 7:30 till 6 o'clock, maybe even 6:15, which is a hell of a long day for them. So at least with me working from home, he does go to after school care, but I can pick him up at 5. So, when my day is supposed to finish, I can pick him up at 5. And then I've had meetings with the UK and various different other places. So they go, but at least I can get him home, give him food, and then have a meeting or whatever. So, yeah.
Yeah, totally. I think COVID's I think probably a lot of single parents are grateful for COVID.
Oh my God, yeah.
And also not grateful. It's also been challenging. My son was at home, learning from home for most of last year. And, so I would be like trying to get him in class while I was in my meetings and doing all of that, which was a little bit difficult.
And I went through that as well. So we are in the most lockdown city of the world. So Melbourne, it is. It's been challenging. Have you seen, and this is just completely aside, this is not single parenting, but have you seen the effects of COVID and keeping your child at home and stuff? Have you seen those sort of effects happening? They're happening to all kids. But.
Yeah, he had. They're all the ones that are pretty well documented about, emotional. Lots of kids are, and since I'm in education, there's this. I'm sure it's all over the world. It's definitely all over the United States. The kids are, they are acting younger. They didn't do the social growth that you would expect. So. my son was a fifth grader when COVID lockdown happened, and then he's a seventh grader now. In a lot of ways, he still acts like a fifth grader. And that's hard for teachers because they're oriented to a different group of kids and they have to do the adjustment. So those things are there. Some of it's emotional, some of it's academic. My son, the funniest thing that happened to him was that he grew a lot during shelter in place, like a lot, like 6 inches a lot.
Wow.
And because he wasn't exercising as much, because he was home more, and even though I took him out every day and took him for a walk almost every single day, he didn't have the same normal activities he would at school, where he'd be running around, seeing his friends, that he didn't develop the right muscles around all of his joints. So he's actually having to have physical therapy because he grew too much and he was too non-active during that time. So we're having to rebuild his muscles because they were flopping out all over the place. So they weren't holding the right way.
Oh, okay.
So it's a very bit of an odd and unexpected challenge of COVID. Is just that, his body grew too fast.
But this is the thing, because like I definitely noticed with my son, like just the energy levels and the running at, I mean, he's not bothered. He's like, Mummy, I'm happy to stay at home with you. Admittedly, he's 6, not 12. But they would be going out, like they'd have break times and they'd play times, or they go out and they run around and they do, and walking to school and walking back. I mean, I'm like you. I took my son out every day, because if not, I would have gone absolutely mentally insane. So, some days it wasn't out, as it were, out. It'd be in the back, because we've got, a fairly decent back garden. So we've got a trampoline, we've got like a PlayStation sort of, with swings and stuff like that there. He'd go on those. We'd play cricket, we'd play tennis, we'd play soccer and stuff like that. So just to get him moving around. But I know, like, they didn't move around as quite as they would do, which is quite,
I mean, for me, I've been kind of grateful because my son, is hitting adolescence, and I'm kind of grateful that he's a little bit younger. I don't mind that he stayed a little bit younger while he's developing. It's all catching up, but it's slower, and that part I'm not mad at, because often seventh graders would be, maybe he'd be a really different seventh grader if he had been in school the whole time, but he's still younger. And, like I had a bunch of his friends over and they decorated cookies the other day.
Oh, cool.
And I don't know that if when I was 12, 13, decorating cookies would have been something I've been willing to do. I was getting into a lot more mischief by then, for sure. So I'm grateful that they're young still, because they're still kind of like 10-year-olds.
Yeah. Yes, which is true. I can't even remember being 10, so that's okay. I'm so old. I don't know. Yeah, I suppose when I was 10, I'm trying to think, that would have been halfway through my middle school. Well, 12 would have been about to go to high school. We were just out on our bikes and at the park, and like our parents just said, make sure you're home before dark, and that was what we did.
Right.
And like,
same here.
There was there was quite like about 8 of us or whatever. There would be a big group, and we'd all meet. We'd say, right, we'll meet you down the park, and we'd meet down the park, and we'd sit around and chat, and we'd play, and just make dens and a whole load of different imaginary stuff that we would do. No computers, because they weren't there when I was like 12. No. So crazy. Wow. Yeah, COVID's been a hell of an experience. I hope we don't go through it anytime soon. Well, we're now got good old Omicron coming along, so we're now going to get decimated, I think, in Australia. So New South Wales is going insanely crazy. We're okay in Victoria at the moment, but I think we're going to get hit soon, because it's Christmas and everyone wants to see everyone, and January is going to be an interesting month, because January for us is our holiday period, i.e. the kids are off school for 6 weeks. And now suddenly Omicron's raised its head, and we're all sort of sitting here.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be taking my son to Hawaii in about a week or so, and I'm wondering if we'll be able to do it. So far, people are getting there, so I'm assuming they're going to let us do it. But it's nuts, a little dicey.
Yeah. I know. So okay, do you have you got, what are your top 3 tips for like surviving being a single parent? Because if there are people listening to this who are just starting on this journey, and like you've been doing it longer than I have, but what would be your top 3 tips to sort of trying to help people to sort of like stay sane and make sure that the kids are like staying sane as well.
I mean, I think my top one is to be unapologetic about taking care of yourself. We have to do that. I have spent many years where I've sacrificed that. So it's definitely me with a hard fought lesson. But, our kids are who we are, who they have. And especially when we're the only one sometimes at home, us being healthy and well and resource is really important. It makes us better parents, makes us more grounded and aware. So whether that's like, deciding that you're going to find a way to exercise 3 days a week or doing a meditation. Meditation you can do anytime, anywhere. So that's a good one. But whatever gives you joy, find those moments that give you joy that just fill you up without the kids.
What do you do? What is it that you do that like, is like your self-care as such?
For me, it's exercising. And because my son's older now, I finally can leave him at home and, go. Our gyms are open with masks on. I can go to the gym and he can be at home, or I can go running. And those things matter to me because those help me feel grounded and healthy. So I exercise. I also meditate. I teach meditation. So I'm a big meditator.
Oh, wow.
But I can do that anywhere, anytime. So that one's a little bit easier. But I do that, and I'm learning to be really unapologetic about it. I always have a little bit of a twinge of guilt when I get to leave him in the morning and go to the gym, but he doesn't miss me. He's sleeping generally, and he's fine.
And he's 12. You go, oh, fantastic! Mum's buggered off to the gym. I can stay in bed longer.
Right, bed longer, screens. He likes just walking around. So those kinds of things. That would be my first one. The second one is to look for allies and friends and people who understand you and have that community. I've been really lucky. Most of my friends are married, but they are a community for us, and we've been taken in. So because I'm a single parent and I don't have family around, we have created our own little urban family and, have lots of people that love us and take us in and show my son different models of family. I think that's really helpful, both for me, but also for him. So he can relate to different people and see different things. And that's been great for us. So find your allies. And I think the third
did
one,
you find, sorry to interrupt you. Did you find that it was easier when your son started school that he got friends at school, so then you were like, they go play dates or whatever, and then you would become friends with their parents and stuff, so it made it easier to share the load with those guys?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, a couple of our primary friends are absolutely friends that we met through my son, and they've known each other most of their lives, and they've been core people. I mean, one of them is a fellow working mom. She has a husband and he works too, but she made a point for a couple of years of feeding us at least once a week, so that, she said it was for the kids to get together, but she just knew how hard I was working. And so she would give us a meal once a week, so I didn't have to prepare a meal. And I also got to talk to adults, and she has no idea what a lifeline that was for me. To have other adults to talk to, and just to have one thing that wasn't on my plate, like, because when you're a single parent, everything's on your plate. So like, I don't have to do dinner on Tuesdays. Oh my goodness, like that's amazing. So I've been really gifted with some really great people who have been incredibly generous. And I think the third one is find that work-life balance, find your spark, and maintain that. I still don't do all of, I don't work all of to the extent that I would possibly if I didn't have a child, but possibly, definitely have a more balanced and well-rounded life because I have my son. So while I probably would have worked a lot more and a lot more aggressively, I probably would have had fewer things in my life, and a much less rich life, have been much more career focused. So find that balance, but also just be, if you are passionate about your work, your kids are going to see that, and you're expressing who you are through the passions that you pursue. And so find ways to do that, because that also makes us who we are. And the kids are.
I completely agree. I completely agree. It's interesting because I'm always learning. I'm always reading. I'm always learning different things. I watch educational things, although my son definitely doesn't do the education. He's like, why are we watching this, Mum? This is boring. Can we watch Avengers? And I'm like, no, we're going to watch about this puffer fish in the Pacific Ocean or wherever it was. I agree with you. They are always watching. It is amazing what they observe and they
Yeah.
absorb
Yeah.
about you and what you do. So, okay, so like if people want to get in contact with you,
Mhm.
or want to know more about you, how do they find you?
Yeah, well, if you're an educator, I'm probably be most interesting to any educators that are listening. I have a podcast called The Awakening Educator, and we interview and talk to other educators about issues in education. While it's primarily United States focused, it's not exclusively so, and the issues are transcend the United States. Let's talk about equity and student needs and so that's called The Awakening Educator. That's one way. The other is to visit my website, which is drmegansweet.com. So DrMegansweet. And, there you'll find a ton of resources. I have an approach and a theory towards personal fulfillment that also allows you to be fulfilled at work as well. So it's for anybody, but I oriented through an educator's eye or experience. So that's there. I have blogs, lots of free resources.
Yeah, no, definitely on your website. There's loads of free resources. Yeah, exactly, just to help people navigate this world that we've got with kids. No,
Right.
I know, crazy. It's okay. So I've got one last question to ask you, Megan. And I ask it to all my people. My people. I don't know why I called you all my people.
I
all
like
my
being one of your people. I feel really
my
honored.
people. My
I'm
people.
ready.
If you had a superpower, what would it be? What would it be?
Oh, that's such a good question. I'm playing with two different answers. I would love to be able to read people's minds. I think that would be the one.
Oh my God, would you? See, I don't think I would. I don't want to know what people are thinking about me or other people or anything else that's going on in the world.
I'm super obsessed with myself, so I have to know.
No, I would be like, yeah, but what? Yeah. What about if you were out shopping and stuff?
I don't want to know everyone's thoughts. I guess I would have I think I'm baffled by people so often. I'm so surprised by people and what they're thinking, and it's so different from what I'm thinking that it would be great to have a clue. I don't want to intrude in anyone's thoughts, but I would love to be able to, get a sense of where where people are going, because I feel like so much is
See, I quite like being ignorant to everyone's thoughts. I'm like, I don't really care, and I don't want to stand in the grocery store and have the person in front of me going, right, when I get home, I need to murder blah blah blah. Like I wouldn't oh my God, do you know?
Yeah, I don't want any of that. I just want it's selective. I want to be able to have the power to choose when I go in and out.
Yeah, because you're like, okay, so you want the power to hear all good thoughts, no bad ones.
Get insights. I would like to get insights into people's motivations and thinking. Yeah.
So what was the other one? Well, no, what was the other superpower that you were toying up? Whether you
I would love to be able to just pop from place to place without traffic, without flying. I don't even want to fly. I just want to be able to I want to go to Australia.
Transport, ping, have a watch and just double tap and you're off somewhere wherever we. Yeah. I have to
say many things if that was true.
Well, I think I would want that one, but I wouldn't want to restrict it to Earth.
Sure.
So I would want to be able to go. So I would want to be able to ping through time. This is my word. Ping through time. So I'd want to be able to go backwards and forwards through time, a bit like Back to the Future, but not in a car. Because come on, people. No. Yeah, right. That's too much baggage. Just me and a watch would be okay. Where would you park it? Right. And who knows if there's parking in the future? I mean, who knows? And also to be able to ping to different planets, because I'd love to be, but the problem is ping, but be able to, because if you ping up to Mars and there's no atmosphere and you can't breathe, then you want to be pinging back very quickly. So, but you're
gonna pass. You'll ping. Yeah,
I sort of So it's sort of one of those to actually I don't know. I'd like to live to about 150 as well. But not in this body now, not in an old wrinkly body that's falling apart that needs walking sticks and breathing apparatus. And Yeah, because I think to me, I wouldn't want to live forever. No, thank you very much. But like 150, I sort of think you'll see a lot of, mind you, then I'll get to 150 and want to live another 150 years. But like, I just think you'd see a lot. Like like if you've lived 100 years, the changes that have happened in these last 100 years are massive. I mean, geez.
It's true.
So yeah, and so then you've got the other 50 is just a bonus. But like 150 would be cool, I suppose. But knowing me, I'll get to 80 and go, okay, I've had enough. I just want to go now. I don't know. Like, who
Yeah.
knows?
Interesting. Yeah.
And then
Yeah. I
what's
mean, the
the
world's
next
changing so fast.
journey? What's the
Yeah.
next journey that we go on? We die, and where do we go? I mean, maybe nowhere. I'm a bit agnostic with all of that stuff. Maybe we go off to somewhere else. Who knows, you know?
Yeah. It's
Um,
been a mystery.
do we go off onto a different plane? Are we in the quantum physics, quantum area of our environment and life? Who knows? Wow, we've just gone down a massive, massive rabbit
Yeah.
hole,
You got
black
me, now
hole,
you got me
whatever.
imagining
I
all
mean,
of that.
oh my God. Um, but yeah. However, being a single parent is still bloody hard. I don't care what it
That's
is. Like, I
right.
don't care what you say.
Well, where
There
would you?
you
It's so
are.
funny. As you were thinking about pinging everywhere, I'm like, where would my kid be when? So back to the single parent,
Yeah.
I was like, who's watching him while I'm doing that?
Wow.
So I guess we'd have to be able to ping but not lose time. That's what it would be.
There is that. Or, yeah, I don't know. Or they just have to be old, and then like they get a bit older so they can fend for themselves, and
There
then
you
we
go.
could ping around.
Okay.
Or you could double tap your watch, hold somebody's hand, and then double tap your watch, and they would ping with you.
Oh,
I
nice. I
don't
would
know.
really love to bring my son with
I'm
me.
not sure I'd want to ping my son to Mars, though. I think it would just
No,
be like,
that'd be a
no,
lot.
that would be a
Yeah.
solo journey, I think. Maybe. I'm not sure. I'd like to hold my watch and go, right, ping me to a place where there's alien life forms, and it just pings me all over to a place. That would be
Oh,
interesting.
neat. Yeah, that would be interesting. Yeah.
But then
I
I'd
would say
probably,
I'd say friendly alien life
yeah,
forms.
oh, yeah, see, yeah. Because I was
Yeah.
thinking, oh, then I'd probably ping to somewhere where they were going to eat me or something. So that would
Yeah,
be
you
no
gotta ping
good.
carefully.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Who knows? Maybe we'll be pinging all over the place. Maybe
That would be
Elon
fun.
Musk has stop with the space thing, people. Like, let's get
It's
this pinging going
ridiculous.
on.
There you go. I like it.
Let's get the pinging going on, or let's like fix what we've got down here first before we start exploring. I think they've just given up on down here, and they've gone, nah, this
Let's
is
feed and educate the people we have, which all of those billionaires could do if they actually chose to spend their money differently.
No, yeah, I
And that
know.
would be
It's
a
all about
thing.
ego.
Yep.
All about ego.
Don't get me started on the shape of those rockets. So yes, all about ego and all
Don't
possible
even go there.
ways.
Oh my gosh. And all of them are men. What's going on
Of course.
there? I think us women,
Because if they were
we have a
women, they'd
little
be
bit of a
paying-
view.
Well, look at their ex-wives. I mean, Jeff Bezos' ex-wife has given almost all of the fortune she got from being married to him, which was considerably less when they were married. She's given it all away to charity. She's given away hundreds of millions of dollars, and her ex is building a rocket. So there you go. That's what I think women would do.
Yeah.
I think women would take care of the world.
I think so. I think men need to sit down and calm down and let us just take over a little bit. But
I agree.
it's just big egos. That's all it is. Big egos. Hey ho. Well, maybe us single parents, single mums, and us mums now are going to be bringing our kids up slightly differently. Maybe. Who knows?
So I think we are.
One in three families are now like single parent families or whatever. So God knows.
There's a lot of us.
Yeah. There are a lot of us. Look, thank you so much for today, Megan. Thank you for spending the time with me. What time is it where you are? It must be. Is it evening?
It's afternoon. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Afternoon. Oh, of course, because it's morning here for me. So I just get confused with talking to people all over the world.
Breakfast, and I was like, oh, breakfast.
Yeah,
right?
I know. Yeah, don't go there.
You're into tomorrow already, so have a good rest of your day.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Look, thank you so much. Thanks so much for spending time with us, talking through your journey as a single parent and what you've actually done. And yeah, if people want to get in contact with you, then they can go to your websites. They can contact me via the podcast. And yeah, look, have a fantastic evening.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I've never actually spoken about being a single parent before, and it was a real pleasure. So thank you.
No, thank you. This is what we're here for, to tell other single parents that you and I, we've been there and done it. And look, we seem semi-sane. Maybe the last conversation wasn't very sane.
We're still talking, so
we're still alive. We're still getting on with things. Our sons are okay.
They're thriving.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. Awesome. Look, thank you. It's been a real pleasure having you on. You have a good evening.
You too. Have a good day. Bye.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast and would like to hear more, please hit subscribe wherever you like to hear podcasts. If you'd like to support us further, share this episode with your friends and family on all the usual social media platforms that you're normally on. And finally, drop us a review on iTunes, as I'd love to hear your thoughts, comments, and ideas. It all helps me to understand and produce awesome content that I know you're going to want to hear, like this. If you want to check out past episodes, write to us, appear on the podcast, or for links, resources, and show notes, go to our website, www.strongsingleandhuman.com. We are also on all the usual social media platforms, Insta, Facey, and Twitter. Have a wonderful week, and I hope to see you back here again soon. Be kind to yourself, and remember, no one's perfect, and we're all just putting one foot in front of the other and doing our best. I'm Claire Martin, and you've been listening to the Strong, Single, and Human podcast.